Hello, everyone, and welcome. Lewis here with The Hit Life, where we bring you news, interviews, and more from all your favorite Southeast regional MMA promotions. Today, we're joined by Devin, Manu Da Great, Pegg. Manu got his first sanctioned win at LeleoCode Winter Fight Fest recently, but he comes from the infamous Streetbeefs promotion, where he holds titles in two different weight divisions, and he's ran through all of his opponents with an outstanding record of 9 wins and 0 losses. Hello, Manu. Welcome to The Hit Life.
Cool. Well, I feel welcomed after that, man. I appreciate the introduction. I mean, it is all true, but it is just hearing it again, man. It's wild because I've only been training and doing this for just over a year now. In August, it was a year. So we're August? A year and 3 months in, almost 4. So, and I have the resume you just said. So hearing it again just makes me smile, man. I've accomplished a lot.
Yeah, you definitely earned those accolades. So you won your first sanctioned bout a couple weeks ago at LeleoCode with a submission in the first round. And I've watched some of your backyard brawls, and I saw that you used grappling in those as well. When did you start grappling in jiu-jitsu?
Well, I have a wrestling background from high school. I had wrestled for about a year and a half before some outside circumstances took me out of it. So once I got out of high school and I had started training again, all I had was my wrestling base. And when I had went into training, I hadn't gone into training to become a fighter. Florida Boy, who's my training partner and someone who you'll see everywhere you see me, you see him. We're childhood friends, but he got me started in it because he had already had an amateur fight and 2 street beef fights. So he needed a wrestling training partner, and who else than the person he trained wrestling with in high school. So it was like 3 months of training with him on his back porch. I mean, I'm going to eventually bring you back there and show you real quick because we got the setup here. I just kind of fell in love with it again. It was like wrestling all over again, like discovering the sport. Mm-hmm. And then he just kind of brought it up one day. It's like, why don't you train to fight? And it all just made sense, man. Like I was grinding just to grind. I didn't have the goal of fighting. And then once he said it, it was just kind of everything fell into place, and it was just hard work. The first fight I took MMA and boxing match the same day in Streetbeefs. I won those, and then a month later I did the same thing, and it was 2 pop-up events in Tampa, and then they took those away. So the only choice I had to continue without a gym was to continue with Streetbeefs. No promoter was gonna take my word for me being a determined, trained fighter when I didn't fight out of a gym yet. Mm-hmm. So after I had got a belt at Streetbeefs, the LeleoCode promoter, who I have to shout out props to, Sean Gilbert, had contacted me and told me he had saw potential in me and would like to get me on the card. About the same time, I finally decided to dedicate myself to a gym, Syndicate MMA, and that's the same gym that Florida Boy fights at too. And since then, it's just been it's been like it's just happened. So everything happens so fast, but it's just when you put your nose down and you're in the gym every day and all these opportunities come, you have no choice but to step in. And when you grind hard in the gym, the fights are easy. And as you could see with the first round finish, I do it every day in the gym. So going out there and performing it in the fight was almost muscle memory.
Mm-hmm. Your gym, Syndicate MMA, that's in South Florida?
Yeah, they call themselves Syndicate Boxing Club. We're going to be transitioning soon here to Fight Me Combat Sports because we're going from a boxing club to a full MMA combat sports fight team. We have 8 to 10 fighters on our fight team right now on the roster. Florida Boy Joey Rutherford's one of them. Blake Torchin, who's another guy at 145 who's undefeated. Joe, he's a boxer. He's I'm pretty sure undefeated amateur. If not, he has 1 boxing loss, and he wants to make the transition over MMA. So that's another thing I've shout out to. All the guys that I work with are talented guys. So I train against the best, and it brings the best out of me. And Nico Price trains at our gym too. So anytime I get working with Nico, nothing's better than working with a professional of the sport. You know what I mean? So I have to give all props to my gym. I wouldn't have the dedication, work ethic, or talent and accolades to show for it if it wasn't for them.
Who's the head coach there?
Mike Nallen.
Okay.
And he's our boxing coach, but he's head.
So you said you got out of wrestling, you stopped combat sports for a little while. Florida Boy was doing Streetbeefs, so that kind of inspired you to get back into it. You ran through Streetbeefs, you got your titles. At what point did you decide that you wanted to start sanctioned bouts?
Well, I had attempted to text promoters before I had any clue about the MMA scene.
Mm-hmm.
I had no clue. I was just a wrestler who wanted to do MMA. So I texted a few promoters and they had just kind of like, not in any disrespectful way, but were like, you know, you got to get with a gym. A head coach has to let me know that you're ready. Or I have to know that you're like, you train. I can't just let anybody, you know what I mean? They were telling me what it was. So I had the goal the whole time. But once I had started making good progress in Streetbeefs and seeing like potential for a belt and everything like that, I'd switch back to that being a main focus. But once I had won my belt and started going to the gym, all my coaches were telling me, you have talent. If you would put as much work in the gym as you do outside of the gym, you would just grow as a fighter so much more. So I did what any fighter does. I listened to my coach and it all worked out. I still, as you can see now, I just trained at home. I still train at home when I don't go to the gym, but I went from 1 or 2 days in the gym to 3 to 5 days in the gym a week now. And at fight camp, it's 5 days a week, sometimes 6. And that 7th day, we're still on the back porch rolling on the pads we have because, we love it. We have another guy that we're bringing up who's going to be debuting soon. And then guys from our gym come over and roll. We got a Bob here. We live, we breathe, we love combat sports.
Yeah, there have been a lot of big names that have come out of the underground scene. We have Jorge Masvidal, Kimbo Slice, and then I'm sure a slew of other guys. So that's just one way to get into the sport in a very probably one of the tougher ways rather than kind of the traditional working your way up through the kickboxing circuits or college wrestling or something like that. And it makes for a great story too.
Yeah, I would say my coaches aren't exactly like they never shame me about it, but they're not exactly supportive. Like they don't tell me, yeah, go get a Streetbeefs fight because they understand the consequences of my injuries. If I get injured, I sign a no liability clause. So if I get injured, that's on me. And then it's like you put all this work in just to get injured, and then you're out, and now you have to pay for your medical bills. So that there is risk in it. And to give a nod to Streetbeefs, there's so much exposure behind Streetbeefs. I mean, I got to grant them a lot between sponsorship deals, just partnerships within the MMA scene that I've gotten. Like my shirt I have right here, I got made. My shirt guy, he's got his logo right here. He's seen me through Streetbeefs and got in contact with me. So as before I even had my first amateur fight, I had sponsorships. I had my own merch I was selling. So I plan on doing it right, and I plan on doing it for longevity. I want to become a professional in the sport, and I want to fight at the highest rank. So I felt like, and then back to your asking me when I knew it was time. It's when I felt like this is what I wanted. It was no longer a hobby or a sport. It was like a passion or an obsession. I wanted to be the best. And that's a nod to like Manu Da Great, like the greatest. I will hold myself to the highest pinnacle. Like any day off for me makes me like get up the next day and an hour earlier and go for a run. Just stuff like that. I got my notes set on my phone to motivational quotes every morning at 6 a.m. like an alarm clock. Anything I could do to just push myself that extra mile. And not to Florida Boy, who I'm gonna have come over here real quick and hop in the camera, because I live with him and he pushes me every single day too. He's 4-4 as an amateur fighter and 4-0 in Streetbeefs. I mean, living with somebody who has the passion that I have, and I mean, I followed his footsteps in wrestling and now in MMA. I mean, he did everything first, and he kind of cleared the path for me to be great, and has brought me to the level of greatness. I just got to give appreciation to that. I feel as though having a team like I have around me of people who are, if I want a day off, they're like, no, we're training today.
Yeah,
they want a day off. I'm like, nah, we're training today. So it's just, can't do everything by yourself. It's good to have a good team around you, and I feel like I have the best.
So just to be clear, now that you're on the amateur circuit, you're not going to go back to underground fighting.
I think that I will be fighting one more time against the 135 belt holder for Streetbeefs. I want to hold 3 belts and be a triple champ for the accomplishment of it. And then I'll be done with it. But right now, my main goal and priority is building my amateur record, looking to get a LeleoCode belt at 145. And I'm actually looking to get some kickboxing matches in it at some point in my amateur career, just to build my striking experience and resume.
You hinted at this a little earlier, that you had big plans, big dreams for this. What is your ultimate goal in the sport?
As much as I would like to become a UFC champion, that's what everyone says. My goal is to become a professional and go to one of the top esteemed promotions and become a champion. Whether it's UFC, Bellator, even Eagle FC, Khabib's. I just want to go fight at the highest level and become a champion, because I know that I can do it. And why not build generational wealth for my family in a way that I love? If I get to the point where I can train every day and know that my family is fed, because I have a 1-year-old daughter. If I could train every day and know that my family's fed, that's the life that I'm looking for. That's the life that I want. Because we work together. We work on the same crew, and we work basically in construction and pool cages. So we work in the sun for 6 to 8 hours a day, and then go train for 2 to 3 hours. So we're dedicated, but it's because we see the bigger picture. We both know that we can both become top fighters in any pro promotion, and in due time we'll get there.
What is your timeline for that? Do you have anything in mind? I know you don't want to do a few kickboxing matches. Have you thought about that?
Yes. All right. So my goal is within the next 6 months. I want to have I want to be active enough to, in the next 6 months, have a five fights. I don't want to sound conceited, but continue my record of undefeated and be 5-0, and at that point already have fought or be fighting for the 145 belt. And in that time, that's when I'm going to shift more towards kickboxing matches, is once that I have the belt. And I'm thinking that a year to a year and a half, I'll definitely have 5 matches in, a few kickboxing matches in, and have the experience to be able to go pro. My coaches have the confidence in me. They've basically said, just put your nose down and grind in the gym. Once you get your experience in the cage, you know what your future is, and so do we. It just takes time. So we're all on the same page. Hard work pays off. So
absolutely. So you don't really take that much damage in your last fight. When are we going to see you next?
January 28th at the LeleoCode, Fight Fest. I don't remember what they're calling this card, but it's their first card of the year, the one they're jumping off with. Fight Season 2023. Yeah, Fight Season 2023 is what they're calling it. But I'm looking for another 145 MMA fight. Hopefully looking for another first round finish. And that's one thing that I do like, do love about my style is I never really get hit much. And a lot of the people don't like it, but I mean, as a fighter, I, I'm not a Nick Diaz. I don't want to go in there and stand and bang with you. I want to go in there and handle business quickly. I don't want to hurt the other guy either. As his famous quote is, I want to send him home, not to the hospital. You know what I mean? Do anything you can to win a fight, but I don't want nobody to get hurt. I don't want to stand in there and bang. I want to get in there and get the job done nice, clean, and quick. That's my goal.
Yeah. Yep. And then eventually be able to do it in that fashion, collect the paycheck and go home.
Yes, sir. Bingo.
So you're going to be fighting again at LeleoCode 22. That's January 28th. Do you have an opponent yet?
No, I think that Sean and my coach are in talks about a few guys right now. I don't think they have anybody locked in yet, but okay. I'm hoping to get no offense to Joseph by any means, but I'm hoping to get a little bit more of a test. As I've told coach with my amateur career, win, lose, draw, I really want to feel adversity, learn as a fighter. It's all about learning and experience. So I never want to pick an easy fight or choose the most inexperienced guy. I want to pick the guy that I think is going to bring the best out of me in the cage, and I'm going to learn from the most. So whenever I get the opportunity to choose a fighter, that's how I'm going to choose who I fight.
In your training style, do you study your opponents? Do you train specifically for their style? How do you approach that?
I do study my opponents, but I don't change my training by any means. The way that I look at it is, in a fight, it's me versus me. I don't think that any one single talent or skill is enough to overcome me. I think it's my mistakes that will overcome me. Say if I go against a great kickboxer and I get kicked in the head, it's not because he's great at kicking people in the head. It's because I didn't have my guard up. So it's me versus me. As long as I train myself in all aspects and get better every day, then I don't make the mistakes to let anyone else win. So that's what I look at it. It's never me versus anyone else. When I go in there, it's me versus me. If I don't make a mistake, I win. If I make a mistake, I give him an opportunity to capitalize.
Well, you got the right mindset. You got the team behind you now. You got an awesome story to follow. What do you want to tell the people that are watching this?
Well, it'll be a little lengthy, but set little goals. When I started this, I started for my first month or two, and I tried to set big goals, and I got very overwhelmed and unmotivated. But once I started setting little goals, if you need better cardio, start running half a mile a day. Bump it up to 3/4 of a mile in a week, then a mile. Don't find your pace and build it. Once you start hitting the little goals, those little accomplishments, those are what give you motivation for the bigger goals. And I would like to call myself a cardio monster, because I started like that. I started with horrible cardio. And then I started running, and like I would barely get a mile and I would quit. But then I started seeing how I'd get better every morning. I'd run a little bit longer. And those little accomplishments pushed me to where I can go roll for 20 minutes and do 5 rounds of striking, and then go hit the bag for a couple of rounds. And then I'm like, coach, I'm fresh. You know what I mean? Like, the little wins. So for anybody, even if it's not MMA, it's just health and fitness, because I'm really big on health and fitness. Focus on the little goals, and just let anyone know, if anyone wants any type of eating, fitness, anything like that advice, I'm open to any questions or anything. I will even build you a regimen. I've done it for a few of the fighters at the gym, and just a few of the guys that like to watch me fight and that's seen my dedication. And I would have no problem for doing it for any of you guys, because I think health and fitness is important as a physical, but also as a mental thing in life. And I think everybody should focus on it to a certain extent.
You guys heard the man. Make sure to give Devin, Manu Da Great, Pegg a follow. He'll give you fitness advice. He'll give you diet advice. Make sure to follow his comrade, Florida Boy MMA on Instagram as well. He'll be making his debut here pretty soon, right?
Oh, he's 4-4.
Okay.
He's 4-4.
Yeah, I've already fought for the LeleoCode title once before.
Okay, well, make sure to follow Florida Boy MMA also. Make sure to follow Syndicate Boxing / Syndicate MMA down in is it Fort Myers?
Yes, sir.
Fort Myers, Florida. Those guys got big things coming. They got some champions coming out of there. Thanks so much for doing this, Manu. Can't wait to see you in January. Fight your next opponent. And also good luck in your next underground ball for the bantamweight title down there.
Appreciate it, man. And I hope to be back soon after my fight.
Thank you, guys. Talk to you next time.
Talk to you next time, man.
Whoa, spin, 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 spin. Stepping and sliding, run down on ops. I got niggas hiding from their own damn block. Whoa, 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 spin.